Okay. Typically, the practice involving the grasping and occasional cupping and interlocking of fingers, often referred to as handholding, of which is often displayed by two people who have affection towards each other, it's used as a means to convey reassurance and to make these two people ever more closer to each other. Something I find rather perplexing is how many people have referred to the action of hand-holding as a degenerate activity, even going so far as to labeling it as scandalous. This is truly a superfluous, confounding conundrum that I have decided to make my business to answer. Though, is it really? If we were to put hand-holding into the perspective of it being between two lovebirds, would it actually be a degenerate activity? A quite captivating question. Let's find out for science. I think the best way to start to figure out whether or not hand-holding is degenerate is to first understand what makes something degenerate. And if there is one thing that I have learned from many years of studying degeneracy is that in order for something to truly be considered degenerate, it needs to in some way provoke an emotion in people, but not just any kind of emotion. It needs to provoke a strong positive emotion that as a result is usually to the person's liking. This goes for most degenerate topics. For example, tentacles, monster girls, wanting to be dominated by a dummy mommy, the concept of collaring, all of these things are extremely degenerate with a big capital D. All of these are truly degenerate because they all incite an emotion in the respective person. Those emotions being positive and something that the person is drawn to. And what's very important to know is that when anything is found pleasurable by anyone, whether it be through visual stimuli, physical stimuli, or any other form of interactive stimulant that is to the respective person's desires, a chemical is released in the brain called oxytocin. Produced in the hypothalamus and released in the posterior pituitary, this chemical is a peptide hormone, which is often referred to as, and curiously, is often labeled as the love hormone, largely because of its role in intimate arousal, which can be achieved through touch. And as you know, hand-holding is a form of touch. And as stated previously, if we were to put that into the context of two lovebirds, then I think it's reasonable to assume and there would definitely be a rise in oxytocin levels, along with overall positive emotions being felt, and subsequently resulting in potential intimate arousal between the two people, and in that regard, hand-holding fits the degenerate criteria, at least in that aspect. It should be noted, however, that oxytocin can be released through any activity that is pleasant to the person. Though, be it as it may, touch is still something that is guaranteed to increase oxytocin levels, unless the person has a deficiency in oxytocin. But if we are talking about two people, normal oxytocin levels and a normal production of oxytocin, then touch will definitely be something to increase oxytocin levels and could possibly increase the likelihood of intimate arousal. There's no doubt that hand-holding is degenerate in that sense. One might even suggest that it is even more degenerate when it is put into the context of that hand-holding is essentially a practice in which bodily fluids and anything else that the two hands may have come into contact with throughout the day, with varying levels of depravity, are exchanged between each other. No matter how deep you decide to look into it, it would seem that hand-holding is at least to some degree degenerate, considering the notion that hand-holding results in a chemical being produced that could lead to intimate arousal, and as we all know, intimate arousal is degeneracy. And with that, if you guys enjoyed this, but theoretically, if you have watched this far, then you do enjoy my videos, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, share this with your neighbor, your high school teacher, and your wife, and I'll be back to answer another question that Miss Andrews can answer.